Jerry, it is great to see you again and catch up a little bit in this way because we haven't connected this way in a while. So it's fantastic to see you.
Well, not individually, but I feel like I see you not quite once a month, but almost once a month when we're on those calls. So
Well, that's
listeners
fair with
know,
the Academy calls.
yeah, we're part of the academy, and so we drop in when we're not traveling.
Yeah, I'm gracious that you do. So I appreciate that. But I wanted to jump in just because you have been in the marriage space for a while, particularly the Christian marriage space. You're a great voice for it. You have a great mission, and that has not altered. And so I figure with the interactions that we can have as it pertains to married sex, because that's the last time we talked, if I remember right, for the show, was when the book Married Sex came out. But let's spin off into that beyond that a little bit and just go. You'd kicked around an idea of experiencing the five senses when it comes to our sex lives, and so let's dive into them.
Well, here's what I love about married sex. I'm speaking about the aspect, not my book. It's kind of frustrating when you got the title is the same thing. Is that you could be like for Lisa and I, it's 41 years now. You and Pam are at what,
32.
32. So there's a lot of different aspects. There's a lot of different seasons. There's a lot of different ways to keep connecting.
Mm-hmm.
But it continues to be, I think, such a positive force for our marriage. And when I was writing Married Sex, I was talking to a couple, Kyle and Abby, where before they had kids, they were kind of bragging about Kyle's ability to go a long time. And they really enjoyed it and they made use of it. Now I'm talking to them. I think they had 4 kids. And Abby was laughing about how it's sort of like, okay, we got 10 minutes. Let's go. Put on the TV. We got to get going. And
Right.
she said, frankly, as a young mom, that's kind of all she needs. She goes, I'm getting pawed all day. I'm getting touched all day. But I also kind of wanted to, for lack of a better word, get off. And so if it's 10 minutes, we're done. I was good with that. But they noticed something, Corey, that it was meeting a physical need. It wasn't meeting the emotional need. It was sort of like health, like fast food. If you're really hungry, sometimes you stop, you get a burger, it's okay. If you do that every time you eat, you're not going to feel healthy. Your body's going to. And they felt like their relationship was experiencing it as well. So the whole idea behind the 5 senses, it hit me how the Song of Songs emphasizes all 5 senses, is really an invitation for us to just slow down and enjoy the journey, not just the orgasm. I mean, for guys, an orgasm is what, 5 to 10 seconds? For women, maybe 20. You probably know the stats better than I do, but somewhere around that. But the whole 5 senses is not seeing all that leads up to that as just a prelude, but is very much a treasured part of the experience. I mean, if you go to, I'm sure you go to some of these expensive fundraising dinners, it's amazing how the best banquet people work on bringing in all 5 senses. You come in and you hear great music in the background. There's good smells. Sometimes they even pipe in smells, or it's a smell of the food. It's touch, a certain kind of napkins, certain kind
Yep.
of chairs, certain kind of tablecloths. Of course, you've got taste, um, decorations, all of that. So your sights, they want to hit all 5 senses to put you in the mood to give. And when you apply that to sex, it's amazing how powerful it can be. There's a movement that's getting more attention. Have you heard of carezza?
I have not.
No, it's from the Italian word caress. It's actually old. A Quaker doctor named Alice Bunker Stockham wrote a book about it in 1896.
Okay.
And
Okay.
still she was a Quaker, but the whole movement that she was starting, that more people are talking about, is kind of an Italian thing, is that the focus is on the journey, not on the orgasm. That doesn't preclude an orgasm. It doesn't mean that an orgasm isn't important, but it's about connecting with your partner more than having a physical experience.
Right. Right.
And that's what I like about the 5 senses, because, just even in the academy, people will talk about toys or, furniture, things like that, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I think all the time, sometimes the focus can be on the particular physical experience. I think the best sex is when there's a connection.
Yeah.
And the
Totally.
five senses are a way to really connect. You're aware of your body, your spouse is aware of her body, you're enjoying each other, you're enhancing the experience by bringing in different aspects of the senses. For me, I don't want to sound elite. It just seems to me a more satisfying, emotionally mature way. That doesn't preclude,
Yeah.
it doesn't preclude
No.
bit of novelty, but I think it really does feed the relationship.
Yeah, those are the things that seem like it would be from the whole experience in its entirety. It has a longer last, a longer glow afterwards than the quickie. I mean, because those are all. And again, the thing I like about this concept and why we're talking about this for the show, Gary, is just because it's a different way to look at something that we are all trying to do and at least start to ask better questions about, okay, wait, what would it be if I did that? What keeps me from doing that? How do I define really good? Because to me that's the main point, is what am I really after? And if I can be honest about that, then I'm well ahead of the game. But if you can look at it, because also what comes to my mind just when you're mentioning that book, and if it's popular, you say it was an Italian or overseas, that where it was written from, that what comes to my mind is if you just think of the different ways other cultures than America handle mealtime. Like Italians are renowned for
Yes.
long drawn out
3 hour meals.
meals,
Yes.
and it because it's the experience and the food, it's the camaraderie and the connection and the experience, and so it's all of it. And I can even attest to just the way you said how, if I'm looking at Pam and I's journey of 32 years, we had a time just not too long ago where we knew sex was on the radar for us. And when it originally had an opportunity, I'm like, no, I'm not there.
Mhm.
I'm tired. Something else was going on with me. And so it might have been the next morning or the next day. She's like, "Well, we got 30 minutes. Is that enough time for you?" Because part of the reason I wasn't there is like, because I want this to go. I want a longer experience with you, not just the sex. I just want the longer connection with you, the build up, the engagement, the talk, the afterwards, all of it. I don't want to feel rushed. And that's probably the first time I've ever said that at 54 years old, that I
It
finally
won't be
was
the
like,
last.
no, it won't be. But it's kind of that idea of like, wait, this isn't just about a goal. This is about a good experience with you. And so I think, how can we really, I love the beauty of this, of how do I incorporate more things into that experience to widen it and to deepen it into what it can actually be, because it is then a process.
When you mentioned the Italian lunches, last time Lisa and I were in Italy, I was speaking at a church, and very stupidly thought we were going to get out at 12:30 because the church ends at 12. Well, they shut down, and then all of the women bring, and Protestant churches in Italy are very small, okay, less 50, 60 people. So they shut down. The women go and get the food, and they come back, and then they break out the instruments. We were there all afternoon. I mean, it was
Oh yeah.
evening before we got out. So you're eating, you're laughing, there's music, people are singing. Here's the thing, Corey, that the connection I just made listening to you, I don't know how many meals I've had since then. I don't know that I'll ever forget that meal.
Right. That one stands out because it's meaningful.
And I think that's what it is about Carezza when it comes to sex. It has longer legs. I
Yeah.
remember it. It's not
Yeah.
the 5-second experience. You remember what you heard. You remember what you saw because you lingered. You can, your smell and memory are connected. What you
Yep.
saw, and so it's a chapter in the book Married Sex, but I've realized the importance of it since that book was written, how wonderful it is as we get older to think intentionally about how do we improve the experience and connection by intentionally bringing in each of the five senses.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No,
like,
I think that's really smart, just because you start to see the infinite abilities we can have to keep doing this, and it continue to be meaningful, not become something that just is a routine.
and what I loved is how, again, going into the Song of Songs, every one of the five senses are emphasized. These
Hmm.
are all scriptures that are clear. If we talk about touch first, can we get into them? Is that all
Yeah,
right?
let's go. Yep.
Song of Songs 8:3. Oh, that his left hand were under my head and that his right hand embraced me. It's a picture of she feels surrounded by his touch on the left,
Hmm.
on the right, up and down. We don't need to picture it, but it's a big tip I like to give to guys that a woman's skin is up to 10 times more sensitive than a man's. It really is the biggest organ in her body and
Hmm.
the biggest erogenous zone. But what I see because of that, what I've seen with couples, we did the research, we found that, is that men often felt like the wife's touch was too light, and women felt the guy's touch was too firm. Well, physiologically, there's a reason for that.
Right.
Because women's skin is more sensitive. So I would say women, you could probably be a little rougher with them. Guys, we can usually be a little bit softer. It's going to be a different touch experience.
Hmm.
But just bringing in things like the wife's hair. Obviously, with me, I'm not going to use hair, but bringing in soft things or cloths or feather dusts or whatever it is. Just really thinking, guys, how much skin does your wife have?
Yeah.
How much of that can you bring into the experience with just a little bit of thought? And you try different things and you're thinking about it long before you get to, certain parts of the anatomy that everybody focuses on. The back of the knee, the side, the back, the shoulders, the neck, all of that.
Yep.
One of the things
No.
we really heard in the book was how women were such fans of oil, which men maybe not as much, but again, it makes sense. If women's skin is more sensitive, we had couples that gave a response. One was talking about she discovered frankincense with coconut oil as a lubricant. Here's what she said: "Ooh-wee, is it nice? Just warm enough and slick enough to make things feel extra good." A woman that was on this chat said, "Have you tried cypress and orange, mama?" Now, I just say to the guys, here's two wives that they're raving about how this oil feels on their body. It was also how it smelled, but for them, that was just an entirely new experience that was just fantastic for them.
Yeah. No, that's the whole concept of just realizing there's so much more going on than just the prototypical what we think of as erogenous zones. That we need to see the whole landscape and realize, and it's not just for women. I think for men too. There's an element of fun. How do I embrace touch better beyond just certain areas and experience that? Because I mean, Pam and I have vastly different what's the meanings to the idea of massage. She absolutely loves them. She will go get them. She buys them in bulk before tax seasons and then uses them. And she's constantly, you can take one. I'm like, no, I have had one professional massage and will not do another one just because I did not enjoy that experience. But to her, she can't get enough of it. And so it's just realizing I need to be a better student and then also maybe need to learn to appreciate that kind of a touch differently than maybe I have thus far.
Well, and I like what you said earlier, though, the two for guys. We kind of want touch in one particular place or maybe two, but they're different kinds. Like, I don't want to get too much information. I've never been a big fan of the whole BDSM stuff. Just, it's a whole different conversation. I'm not judging others, but I'm there to cherish and caress and please my wife. I don't get in it. But, light scratches, little slaps, something like that, that can really awaken your skin and make you
Yeah.
feel like, whoa,
Yeah.
here I am. This is
Yeah,
different.
that's something different and it's incorporating an aspect that just broadens the whole experience. It goes beyond and it's using our whole body with the experience. That's kind of what you're talking about with this, right? It's just the idea of recognizing that importance.
And while I think we can overstate the differences between men and women, I think to ignore them causes a lot of problems. One husband we talked to, call him Barry, he took it personally that his wife felt like she needed lubricant. He felt like either something was wrong with her not being excited or something was wrong with his technique. And wives, and you do a great job about calling this out. Wives can just kind of feel like they got to take one for the team. They shouldn't.
Mm-mm.
But that can happen for years. And he didn't understand what could be so pleasurable with a little lubricant like these other women we're talking about. Instead, becomes painful and not pleasurable. And
Yeah.
he really just needed to get over himself. And this way, your spouse's body is what it is. It's not right or wrong in how it responds. It's learning. Not every woman is going to be the same.
Right.
What's important is you understand what your husband and your wife likes when it comes to touch. Getting over yourself and saying, okay, that's what I need to become a master at providing. And because I've heard some guys like to be touched in places, I totally no, 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 that's not me.
Yeah.
But in
But
other
that
places,
but that's just being a student. That's just being a student of your own body and your spouse. I mean, I think that's important of all the way through because it again, like you've noted before in the conversations we've had with you and Lisa's journey, that things change, right? There's some aspects that are kind of a constant. Like I know that she really appreciates this kind of support or engagement or connection or touch or whatever. But then I also know what worked at one point may not
yes,
again. So I got to constantly keep attuned
yeah.
to what's going on.
And that's your good friend and mentor, David Schnarch, that always talks about having to change it up. But just a tip for guys, why do women like foot rubs so much? The area when it hits sensory into the brain that processes it is right next to the place that is connected to sexual excitement. So it's a very powerful form of foreplay.
Yes, totally.
Uh, the second one Song of Songs mentions is hearing. Song of Songs 2:14, let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet. I hadn't thought about this a lot. There are a lot of different ways you could look at bringing in hearing. It's really powerful when you look at some of the science behind it. We had a worship leader back in Houston. We had Saturday night services. So he'd always be taking a shower like at 3 p.m. And maybe the church people wouldn't like it knowing this, but they have this big stereo system throughout their house. All of a sudden, while he's in the shower, he hears this Justin Timberlake song come on, a seductive one. And he goes, Jackie's coming in. Yes. And sure enough, she was. Now, for them, it was protective because there were kids in the house. You lock the
Yeah.
door, you turn on the music, and everything's there. But it was just something that immediately set him in the mood. I did some research of Dr. Rhonda Freeman. She's a neuropsychologist. She said that listening to music during sex reaches three different areas of the brain: the reward or pleasure system, the social affiliation or bonding system, and the limbic system. Now, I don't know if you're too young for this. I'm 10 years older than you, but if people remember those old computers that just stood underneath the desk, not laptops, but desktop things, and they'd have lights on the front, and the more programs you were using, the more lights. That's kind of how it works having sex with music. More of your brain is being brought in. It awakens your brain
Yeah.
in three different major areas, and it can completely change the mood, whether you're listening to Barry White or classical music or whatever it is. It really can open up your brain to a whole new experience based on the kind of music you're listening to.
Yeah. No, that's so good just because even if you just think of it in terms of the conversations you can have that build up to it from the Song of Songs, like your voice is so sweet. I love hearing the sound of your voice that I can remember many a conversation Pam and I have had that weren't necessarily sexual, but they were meaningful and they might have easily turned from there just because we were having a real conversation.
And I don't think a woman's voice is ever as sweet as when you're in bed together. I mean, I think for most guys, a wife can't be vocal enough unless you're at your in-laws or something like that, in an embarrassing
Fair.
place. But it is powerful. We just looked at Deborah and I the different climate that a wife can set just with their voice. I mean,
Yeah.
let me just mention these. If a woman's vocalizations are forceful or begging or praising, moaning or cooing, shouting, laughing, or she's rendered completely silent. Those are 7 very different episodes of
Yeah.
really kind of governed by vocalization. The wife is using her words, that sound, as a powerful tool, setting the notion. And then if she's loud and all of a sudden if she leans in and whispers, the guy's brain is going to be boom, it's
Yeah.
set up. So
Yeah.
I don't know that women are aware of the power of their words in the bedroom.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The funny thing was that what we found, guys are just as likely to turn their wives off by what they say. I don't mean to be too sexist, but we don't necessarily have quite the power. Maybe, I don't know, if you're a Romeo or who's a famous lover's name, you're able to do it. But for a lot of us, we can be better that way.
Right.
That was funny.
Right. That's good. That's good.
The one sense that we found couples disagreed about the most was taste. Song of Songs 4:11 says this: "Your lips drop sweetness as the honeycomb, my bride. Milk and honey are under your tongue." And so the people are into taste. They're really into taste. We found some foodies. Well, one guy is a foodie, but he's married to a woman who's not. So he doesn't press it. He would love it. But the people that like the chocolate with sex or wine before they kiss, the whipped cream and things like that. A
Hmm.
lot of that has to do with just if you like to bring taste in. And sometimes we found it really can be different. One is really into it and one really isn't. So it's not as powerful a sense to use.
Yeah. Well, that's not at all surprising. I mean, how often do you come across couples where one is high on the scale and the other's oftentimes going to be a little bit lower on the scale, and that's just the way things go when it comes to
Yeah.
our partnerhoods.
At least I laugh because this is probably 35 years ago. We hadn't been married that long. And there was this book going around about, it's like, I don't even want to give a title because it's wrong, but it's like 52 Great Sex Dates. It's a Christian book. The last chapter was sealed shut. It said, don't open it until you go through all of them because this is the gourmet night. This is the night that will blow you away. Lisa and I were rule followers. We read through the book. We got to the last one. We opened it up. And it was basically about having a sex picnic where you have all this. And no, that's not us.
Yeah.
So that's why when we say you can try this, you can figure out different kinds of touch, different kinds of taste, different kinds of sound, different kinds of music. But we got marriage. You got a lot of time to explore. Tastes seem to be the most particular. Um, the one that was really big next, that people tend to focus on, is Song of Songs 1:15 through 16, talking about sight. How beautiful you are, my darling. Oh, how beautiful. Your eyes are doves. And then how handsome you are, my beloved. So both husband and wife there are saying, and my eyes are filled with you.
Hmm.
I think it's different. I don't know if I ever told you about my friend who used to be wealthy and they kind of got broke with COVID.
No.
They had been wealthy. 2008 in California, when when the housing market collapsed, that's where a lot of their money was. Turned them upside down. They could have declared bankruptcy as Christians. They thought they shouldn't. He got out of it. He's a good businessman. Just as he was above board and making a lot of money again, COVID hit. He went from 200 contracts to none in 2 weeks. It was devastating. So they're facing this Christmas and they're so broke. And the wife knows he's downbeaten. She knows he's working hard. And she says, look, I know Christmas is coming up. What are you thinking? I know I can't spend a lot. And he said, in all honesty, and this couple have been married 30 years. I think that's significant. This wasn't a young couple. He said, what I'd really love is just to see you in a beautiful new piece of lingerie on Christmas Eve. That would just make my Christmas right there. She goes, I can do that. So a couple weeks went by. He said, hey, how's the Christmas shopping going? She just smiles at me. She says, think red. And he said, Gary, it turned me into a sixth grade boy waiting for Christmas. He goes, he'd been with her how many times? He had seen her how many times? But
Right.
just the anticipation that he would get to see his wife in that
Yeah.
on Christmas Eve in a holiday that could be depressing because of their financial situation. This is what I love about
Hmm.
married sex. It was bringing life to him and joy
Hmm.
in a dark time. Now, I got to admit, I've never heard a wife. I can't imagine a wife in that situation. The husband says, honey, what can I get you? You're going to have a lot of money. And the wife says, you know what, honey, I just love for you to go buy a leopard skin thong and
Right.
come in on Christmas Eve and twirl around. And when I've said
Right.
that to groups, all the women laugh because
Right.
maybe there are a few out there, no disrespect if any women are listening that are like that. But while sight is important to men and women, it can be really important to men as well. And I think we did a Facebook group when we were working on this, trying to get men to talk about what it meant. And I tell you, some of the women said they were in tears listening to men just rave about their wives. That their wives often hated their bodies, that they had imperfect bodies. They thought, well, I'm not a supermodel. And the guys would
Right.
say, I love your legs. Oh, they're short and they're stubby and they're heavy. No, they're beautiful. It wipes me out when I see you in shorts. That I don't think most guys are looking for a supermodel. I don't even think a lot of us are attracted to
Yeah.
the starve yourself supermodel thing. But
Yeah.
man, there is something about seeing the wife that God has given us. I've been married to Lisa for 41 years, and I can still be mesmerized by her. And I love it. And when I focus on that and we slow down to look, we talk about Carezza giving you more legs. I can remember it days later. And I don't want to get too personal. I don't want to embarrass my wife, but I can be enthralled days later. And Corey, that's totally fine with God.
Hmm.
Thinking about my wife,
Yeah.
remembering my
Enjoying.
wife, celebrating my wife, he made my
Yep.
wife. That's
Yep.
a beautiful thing. It's not shameful. It's not lustful. It's not something I need to get over.
No, that's a good point. Just because it is important to realize the visual nature of us as people and the role it does play in enhancing things and connecting and livening some things up on just how we carry ourselves, how we show up. That's all good.
And some wives would like they would take like Christmas lights and put them up in the bedroom or around the headboard or something. They just liked creating a different ambience. Some of them like
Hmm.
really light lighting with candles. Yeah, I think a lot of them they don't want a spotlight on them.
Right.
But if there's shadows and shades and whatnot, create a whole different experience.
Absolutely. That's great.
The fifth sense is smell. Songs 1:3 says this: pleasing is the fragrance of your perfumes. If the lovers in the Song of Solomon, I don't think it's just two people. Song of Solomon, I think is really about the act of married sex, not about one particular couple. It's a series of vignettes. Solomon is mentioned in one, but I think it talks about others as well. In all of them, they just elate over how each other smells. The wife says of her husband in 5:13, his cheeks are like beds of spice, yielding perfume. The husband says of his wife in 4:10, the fragrance of your perfume is more pleasing than any spice. And here's the thing, smell is the strongest of all five senses. It stimulates every aspect of our brain. So it makes sense that Song of Songs might even emphasize smell,
Hmm.
which means, guys, it's really important. A woman's sense of smell is usually much greater than ours. So just because we smell okay to ourselves doesn't mean we smell okay to our wife. It's probably best to go ahead, take a shower, brush our teeth. Just because we don't pick it up, they might not. But again, we found it was very personal. Some wives said they
Yeah.
felt it at a certain kind of cologne. Other wives would say, my favorite smell is unscented. So it's figuring out, how that
Hmm.
works. But I love the way that some of the wives used it. One named Carrie said, I bought a new lotion for a vacation we went on in Cancun 10 years ago. It was an amazing vacation, the best sex we ever had. Now, whenever I use that lotion, we're both transported right there, right back there. Bridget had a bottle of perfume. She wore it on her wedding night, and she brings it out every anniversary for their anniversary night sex. And it reminds them of that first night. And smell is directly connected to memory.
Totally.
Whether they knew it or not, they're really using the sense, the way our brain operates, to remember some of the best moments of their sex sense. Neuroscientist Dr. Daniel Amen said this: there's a direct connection between the olfactory bulb at the top of the nose and the septal nucleus of the brain, the erection center. So it's good for men and women together.
Hmm.
It just really hits us. Again, we're different. I just remember as a young man, when women first started wearing perfume, young women, it could blow me away. I practically proposed. You don't even know me. Well, if you smell that good, it doesn't matter.
You smell that
We're
good,
all in
so
love with each other.
it's got to be good.
So Here's what I found to wrap up the five senses, though. And there's some interesting things about Dr. David Schnarch we can maybe get into. There's one sexual act that engages all five senses at once. Guess what that is? What do you think that is?
I have a guess, but I'm going to let the audience take a moment too and figure out if they think they know what it is and then give the answer. Okay.
All right.
So my guess is we're talking oral sex.
Oh, I
Let's go there.
didn't think about that. Maybe there too.
Okay. Yeah. What's yours?
Kissing each other on the lips with your eyes open. You
Okay.
see, you're touching, you're smelling, you're tasting. So maybe I have to start to say it's one of two. You're right.
Well, I mean, I'm just going off of the way the whole conversation has gone, but kissing, absolutely. And then I love the concept because David was big on the eyes open
Yeah.
as not, as a staying in tune with what's going on, not just watching what's going on. So
Yeah.
there's a difference
Yes.
in what you're doing with that. But absolutely, I can
And
see
if
how
you're
that
kissing
fits.
right, there's a sound to it as well.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and Song of Songs 7, 9 through 10 talks about this. May your kisses be as exciting as the best wine. Yes, wine that goes down deeply for my lover, flowing gently over lips and teeth. So those lovers made the most of their kisses. They brought in the senses. Again, I think it gives you memories. It intunes you into your partner. You can picture whether it's her back, her hair. You can hear the sounds. You can remember the smells and the sights. And then after this, Lisa and I really tried to like bring in things like music and sound, like at the beach. If you're up above, leaving the windows open and you're hearing
Hmm.
the waves, or if it's raining, just different times, really being thoughtful, intentional. Hey, this is a great time to do something different. We can make love while it's raining on the deck, open up the doors and hear it. And yeah,
Hmm.
it's that's how you keep enjoying new aspects for 3 or 4 decades.
Oh, that's so good. Just because it's really about just the concept of how am I focusing on the different nuances of the experience together to enhance it. And I don't have to do them all at the same time as what you're describing. What if we incorporate this one as more of a priority at this point, which is the sight. And then the next one could be the sound. And then some of them you could do two or, but I think it's just so vital to realize like we mentioned earlier, it's infinite on all the combinations of what we can try out and see and
It
establish
really
together.
is. And you turned me on to Dr. David Schnarch. Everybody that listens to you knows your thing, and I was really struck by how he said very clearly the sex life and even the sex activities that got you through your 20s and 30s and 40s may not work in your 50s and 60s. That in fact you have to keep changing it up. Here's a quote. I don't know which one of his books this was from, but he said that married couples need to change your sexual style as you get older. If your sexual relationship stays the same, you're more likely to have sexual dysfunctions and be bored to death. When your response thresholds exceeds the total stimulation you get from doing what you usually do, you'll start having sexual dysfunctions. It doesn't mean that you're falling out of love with each other. It doesn't
Right.
mean that sex isn't going to be as exciting. It just means that you can't use the same playbook that you used when you were in your 30s or 40s. You can probably explain this better than me, Corey. Response threshold is my understanding is twofold. The stimulation you need to get excited
Hmm.
and the stimulation you need to go over the top.
Yep. Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
And that will change. What used to get you excited, I mean, I think for a lot of young husbands, the wife comes out in that lingerie, they're excited.
Yeah. It's all that's
Or
needed.
Donnie in the shower, he hears the music coming on, he knows what's going to happen, he gets excited. Well, 20 years from now, it might take a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's exactly what it is because it's realizing that as we age, there's a routineness to something and so therefore the brain it doesn't land the same way because it's a known thing. There's not some of that novelty and unknown is gone. But then there's also other stresses and other things that just start to come in and weigh and then you add to it the physical side of us that starts to shift and evolve or gravity takes over for both men and women. And that way we got a little bit different on how we have to face the whole dynamic better.
I love what Schnarr said, though, in this book, whichever one it was. He makes it sound exciting, not as a problem to be
Yeah.
solved, but an
Yeah.
invitation to be open. He said, this is a quote: "You have dormant sexual potential that's ready and waiting to be developed."
Yeah. Yeah. He was the first one I ever heard talking about that specifically, but then also just talking about our own capacities as people and the entirety of us on. I actually said this today to a client this morning. It was the first time I was meeting with them. And I said, you're on the cusp of an opportunity to have something maybe that's born in you that you haven't ever had yet, on just your ability to face something that you didn't even know you were able to do. And that's the way we all are. If you think about it, if you look at the arc of our life, that is the way we all are. When we're little, it makes much more sense when you look at a toddler. They don't have any idea to realize that they can reach a point where they could drive a car and all the different complexities that life is as you get further along. But they can.
What I love about these five senses approach is just it's really five windows to new sexual experience and new personal connection. It's practical. Okay, what if we tried to listen to this music? What if next time we try to listen to that? What if we wait for it to rain? Or if we go to the beach, or we're doing things intentionally? What is it? What if we mix with the lighting? We get dimmer lights. We put up lights over our headboard. We do certain amount of candles or whatnot, or we try different lotions or create certain smells, experiment with taste, different things for touch. It's just without having to spend any more money or going
Hmm.
to all of the gimmicks, which might have their place at other times. I think couples can really create that gourmet experience. And if you have a couple hours, you can say, hey, it's time for a banquet. Let's
Yeah.
go for all five.
Yeah.
Let's we rent a room, we make some preparations, we see what happens, and you create a memory that hangs in there for a long time.
Yeah, no, that's so good, Gary, because it really is just kind of a reminder of we don't have to make it so complicated that I can just slow down and look at the way I'm actually designed and bring that back into play more effectively.
And it also means, let's give credit to our creator, that God designed us to enjoy sex. Not just one type of pleasure, but five different kinds at least, where our brain can fire up and enjoy it, that our bodies were made for this. And it's also five different gifts we can give to our spouse, that God made our spouse to enjoy sex. So, five different ways that we can emphasize the pleasure, and five different ways that we can give the gift of pleasure.
That's so good. So how can people find you, Gary? Because I know you've got a lot of information that you put out there and books that you've written and things you're still producing.
Yeah.
So how can they find more from you?
Well, I've found that Facebook and X are convinced that nobody wants to see anything I say. I mean, my assistant still publishes there, but they will literally, because they show you when you have the page, they show it to less than 1% of my followers, most posts. So what I've done, I've switched over to Substack, which connecttogary.com will get you there. It's called Simply Sacred, but connect to Gary, just write that out.com. That's where I interact with people the most. I have a couple columns a week, just talking, not all about marriage. Focus is we've got a great panel coming up with two people named Corey and Pam, and some others about keeping the home fires burning after 30 years of marriage. Um, so conversations like that. We've got one coming up where I asked women, what do Christian wives really want from their husbands? So things like that.
That's
So
good.
that's probably the best way. Then my website, if they just want to read about the books or see things where I'm going to be, is garythomas.com.
Perfect. Well, Gary, I appreciate all the work that you continue to do and the friendship and support that we've cultivated over the last couple of years. So thank you so much, man.
Well, I'm really grateful for this aspect of marriage that you've cornered. You know, I'm a huge fan of your book, Naked Marriage. Yep. And I've seen excerpts from your one coming up. I know it's going to be hot.
Working on
I
it.
want to say we think a lot alike, but I don't want to say that if you're thinking, well, you think better than I do, which I don't doubt. So, but I certainly agree with what I've seen before. Just your approach, taking ownership of our own stuff and differentiation in other areas. So, thanks for what you do, Corey.
Well, thank you.